Today we're going to be talking about expanding your reach as a real estate investor, because a lot of us invest locally. We may want to invest in other provinces, but how do we go about doing it? Well, Bava is a special guest with us today, and he's going to be explaining to us how doing so is just an adjustment of your mindset and the way you think.
Did you feel like you started developing the mindset after you started thinking about real estate investing, or you kind of did it the other way? You worked on your mindset first and then real estate investing?
Correct. I think I would say that I did a rebirth 5 years ago. I was in a good job. I was making money, but I was not really happy myself. So I was trying to figure out why I'm feeling this way, and then started getting into more deep into myself, started going to different events in terms of personal development events, having your own routine. If you want to have a health goal, the first thing the personal trainer is consistency. You got to have your own routine. And then I started myself thinking about, I did not have any routine for my mindset, for my peace, for my body, and for my soul. And then at the beginning, it was all a different language for me, right? Because now you're used to it so much, it comes as a second nature. But when you're coming from an outside world, in terms of normal being of, hey, like, what are you talking about body? What are you talking about soul? Even right now, meditation is being so much in the social media. There are a lot of ways people are doing it. If you just go to the basics of meditation, it's basically just you start with thinking with one, and then you think none, right? That's how it starts with. Imagine like a best example is when we play sports. All we're thinking is we're just thinking in the sport, you're being in the present, and then you're playing it. And you don't think about anything else. That's exactly what you're doing in gym. That's exactly what you're doing in work. That's exactly what you're doing in any other stuff in life. So that's pretty much meditation. So, but people are like overrated with that. Yes, there's a process for that. When you're really into something, that becomes a passion.
Did you say your meditation is combined with your workout, like morning workout?
Yeah, thinking in one thing without thinking of others. Because when I'm working out, I'm just working out. When I'm reading a book, I'm fully reading a book. When I started meditating, it was probably 10 minutes. Obviously, when you start, it's hard to go through your thoughts, because you choose your thoughts, all the negative stuff comes in. It takes time. It's like building a muscle. It's not easy to build a muscle. Started with, 10, 15 minutes, even during the day, just doing stuff that makes you grateful, right? Even small little things. When you drive, you could be like, hey, I use that every day now. Before I used to write down grateful stuff. Now it's like every single half hour, you just think about it and you're like, oh my God, you're just living a really good life. Like you're driving this car today, right? Like imagine this used to be in your dream board and now you're driving this. Before we started this, I was like, thank God the laptop was working. I had the other laptop which was not working. And then I'm like, thank God this was working. And just small little stuff, right? Like it sounds very cliche, but you're just saying, oh, I'm grateful for this and that. But if you actually think about grateful for small little things, it even puts you in the perspective of zoom out the situation. Like me and you, Andrew, can relate it with real estate, because every day we go through a lot of stuff because we're stuck in the problem, especially when you're doing different deals, you're dealing with different trades, dealing with different other cross-functional players. You only have control of your feeling. That's the only thing you have control of. Other than that, you can't do anything. You can't expect how people can talk to you. You can't expect a response from your lender this way. You can't expect your business partner to think different. The only thing you have control is how I'm going to react. Reacting, I want to act on the feelings, not react on the feelings.
That's awesome. It's actually human nature that people tend to think negatively. So it's really important to always be aware, or figure out a way to give yourself a cue to make yourself aware that, oh, listen, like that maybe this time I need to start thinking a little bit positively, because there's always two sides of a story or coin. Yeah. And then if you can always remind yourself to look at it from a different angle, mentally speaking, we're going to be a way better mental state, because things already happened. You can't change that.
That's it.
So try to look at it from a positive side so that you can actually move on without getting caught in details or what's done in the past that you can no longer change.
Absolutely. I think last few months, I think I read a blog, or is it a podcast? I don't know which one it is. In that, a gentleman told about, I started practicing this now. So it's been like 6 months. I just wake up and then I'm instantly happy that I'm alive. And then after that, everything else is a bonus. Any problem is a bonus, like during the day, because I'm already alive, because you're already zoomed out of everything. And then you're like, hey, I'm just alive. Anything else is a bonus. This really helped me when I was actually doing some renovation projects in my rental properties, where things were going left, right, and center, but it was really not hitting my mental space and hitting the way that how I would react before. Just because I'm thinking, hey, like this problem is a blessing, because I'm just going to deal with it. I'm not going to go panic. And then you go more deep into why I'm feeling this way. Things are happening your way. I started literally asking about, hey, why you're feeling this way? Okay, so if the project doesn't go well, it's because either you need to spend more time or you need to spend more money, and then you can put the rental, you can put the tenants for the next 15 days. So in that, you need to raise more money because your project literally was raining, and then we got more. When we tried to open the wall, we had some excuses, and then everybody goes through this, and then we had to really hire a few other contractors to do the more work to finish the time. So literally, I was just going by and talking to myself, saying like, why I'm feeling this way? Okay, I'm not going to let it hit my mental peace. And then I started telling that even to the contractors the same way. So they're not panicking anymore now. They're like, okay, there's always a solution. Let's not panic. Let's try to find a solution about it. So small little things, small little steps like that makes me to even realize, even when you're working with, right now I'm working on a multifamily deal, there are a lot of surprises left, right, and center. But just because you're always going in a solution mindset and then see how you can do it instead of going in, hey, why is this happening to me? This is why, like, I feel that, anybody who's even starting to get the first property, they have to be really in a good mindset space. It's to better your life, not just real estate. It's to even better your own well-being. So it's an energy that you're creating every single day. You're building that aura. Even the people around you will feel that. So that's my take on it.
I find this topic to be it's actually very broad, and there's a lot to it. And especially when it comes to everybody's individual take on how they adopt this into their life, into their business, into their financial decision making. But it's always a balance. It seems to me like it's always a balance between things like logic and emotion. Right? And as human beings, we deal with a balance of those two. When we're dealing with this, people have a different almost lean towards either logic or emotion, right? They have the emotional investors, they have logical investors, and it's never really that one is any better than the other. It's really some kind of a balance of the two, because we are by nature emotional creatures. And to apply only logic to the decisions that you're making, like if I'm trying to flip a property and I'm like, this is practical and this makes logical sense, I maybe should be targeting an emotional buyer, somebody who's going to come in and have that wow effect, and actually be more profitable by targeting the emotions. And in order to be able to target that, you have to be able to understand them. You have to feel it yourself.
Correct.
Otherwise, how are you going to do it?
Correct.
So I think it's really interesting to analyze this, which is why I think even what you're saying, it's important to grasp onto principles and philosophies to feed your habits, to feed your mindset, because the mindset feeds your habits, the habits feed your mindset. But the thing is that when you lack one or the other, you have to kickstart. And how do you go about kickstarting it? Reading books, listening to podcasts, maybe that might affect your mindset. But then you also have the kickstart habits. Like it's like saying, I want to exercise in the morning. Somebody's habits, or people who exercise in the morning, may have their running shoes right next to their bed. Wake up in the morning, slip on their running shoes, go for a run, no excuses, nothing else to do. Right? Other people might wake up and say, oh, they need their pumpkin spice latte, triple sugar, whatever, and they have completely different habits. And these all feed into how it is that you think. So definitely are correct. A lot of people seem to overlook the importance and significance of mindset, because when we talk about it, it sounds like cliches. Yeah, but it is so fundamental as to where we're going with our life and with our business. So it's really great that focus on this.
You're right. I absolutely take everything that you said, because it's all about how each person is brought up and how they were taught when they were in their growing up, right? Because that's where there's a system. If you go look into more about scheduling and there's a time for certain things. That's why I feel, because everybody we were born in a certain way, and then the way we act on it is because of our past, and because we brought up. Analyzing more about yourself would be the best thing that you could do to yourself.
Self-recognition goes a long way into you being able to accomplish as much. Like the worst thing I see is when people don't understand themselves, don't understand their own limitations, and don't understand their own strengths. And it's interesting because I ask people sometimes, I'm like, do you see yourself as a leader? And it's interesting how many people, especially with the education system, everybody feels like they should be a leader. It's like the quality that people seek, and they think that they have to lead the ship. And then it almost reduces their ability to grow with other people, to form partnerships, to network, to connect, and build that power team. Because how do you know where you are best situated? How do you know what your assets are and your skills? So I think people need to self-recognize in order to do it. So I want to talk about a couple of things with you, if we jump into it, because obviously I think anyway that when people start getting into mindset, start getting into philosophies and principles of how it is to conduct themselves in a healthy way, and even their business, usually they had to have had some kind of a kick in the butt at some point, something to trigger them, right? So I want to know, what was it for you? Is there anything that basically said, hey, I need to change it, this is now what's going to prompt this new initiative or this new outlook for me?
When I originally started this type of mindset where I had a job that it was a good job. That it was a dream job for a lot of people, right? The lifestyle I was living was very fulfilled with a lot of people, but I was not fulfilled with what I had, the life that I imagined that this is what I wanted. That's exactly when I started the change. I'm like, hey, I have all this, but I'm not happy every day. I'm finding external stuff to make me happy. Like, buying things, driving this car makes me happy. I didn't know how to deal with myself. So that's exactly when I started thinking about, I'm actually really happy, and I'm putting external factors to bring into my happiness. I was always finding people to go hang out with. I could never handle myself. Then I started realizing, okay, there is something that I really need to take inventory about my feelings, where that I didn't even know about half of the stuff I was doing today. I was only doing stuff to make other people happy. I was people pleaser. I love people, but I was not getting into deep conversation. It was only superficial. I had a lot of friends, but there was no deep connection. So there were a lot of stuff that makes you realize that question about how do you see your life too at that point. Yes, I had big ambitions. I had other stuff going on, but personally, this was, at least six years, I would say, right? That I was not able to really feel fulfilled with what I was doing. I knew that I had this superpower of that I love people, I can meet people, I can talk to people. It was not in a fulfilling way of what I wanted to do. That's exactly when I made that change. And then I started getting more deep into, they always say when the student is ready, the teacher appears, or people that would want to help you, where I tried to think about what is meditation, looking into it, going to different retreats, started listening to a lot of personal development podcasts, right? That's exactly how I started. Until today, that's exactly what I do. I'm still learning every day. It's not that I know a lot. I just know exactly how to deal with my feelings better than yesterday. That's my goal. Like I'm not going to say that I'm going to be better than this person. I just wanted to be better of myself, that how I was dealing with the situation than yesterday and how I'm feeling today. It's all about I'm concentrating only based on everything based on feeling. If it's not right for me, like today, this year, I took a goal and I said to myself that my intention for this year is growth and then boundaries, because I was always available for people. I was always doing stuff for other people. I was always a people pleaser. Now I'm going to do stuff, and I know my boundaries, and the expansion is based on my mindset too, in terms of how I'm dealing with myself. Journey started and it keeps on going.
It's very interesting that you're talking about the mindset and how you connect with people, right? Is that why you started the IG Life and started doing the collaboration with other real estate investors?
When I started real estate investing, I didn't have any platform, same like, property hustlers now. Now you guys are putting a lot of contents where I can go and watch and I can learn from it, because you guys have experience, you guys are sharing your knowledge. Back then, 3 or 4 years ago, it was when I started, especially I was in Montreal, I didn't have this kind of group. I didn't have like a community. Now there's a lot of communities out there where you try to go and look at it. The reason why I started this Let's Grow Together Instagram Live, which is, my company's motto, Let's Grow Together, is basically by sharing with what you know, and then bringing industry experts who has gone through a lot of stuff, because social media is all about, they're showing only the good things. In my life, I just wanted to go to the basics, and then I wanted to show people what happens when the deal doesn't go through. Talk about real stuff, right? That's exactly my way of giving back to the community, to the people. Where when I started, I did not have any community that I joined, and this is the way for me to give back to what I learned and what I'm learning. That's the motto of the Instagram Live. So I started bringing first just real estate people. Now it's pretty much in any industry, like business owners, entrepreneurs, mindset, finance, lawyers. So end of the day, everybody comes in and talks about, what stuff went wrong in their life and what stuff will happen, how they came out of it. I'm learning too by my Instagram Lives.
Even when we're doing the podcast, we're learning so much every time there's a new guest coming in, right? Because everybody has mindset, experience, everybody has a different expertise, right? So even like just in this conversation, we're also learning stuff. So I think it's
same with me. Same with me. So
yeah, the IG Life and all that stuff, I think is a very unique way for you to not just connect with other people, but also to essentially provide yourself with a marketing or personal branding for your
100%.
business. And so it's very digital, which is very different from a lot of local investors. Their approach is to just go to networking events, try to meet people. I know that you also invest remotely. Did you always have the mindset of do things, try to utilize the internet to grow your business and grow your investment?
When I started investing outside province, I did not start this Instagram Live. I think the Instagram Live just started a year ago. The intention for the Instagram live was, so when I met people in the networking events, when we're having one-on-one conversations, or when we're having a discovery call with another investor or a potential investor or an investor like us, I really felt that there is so much that we can share to other people, right? Let's say like this today, like this podcast will be out, but imagine if this podcast is not out, and we three are talking about this knowledge that we have, that we acquired, and the wisdom and the experience that we went through, other person can learn from it. So that's exactly why I started doing this. So every time when I talk to people, it was much more deeper conversation about how they were actually doing stuff and how they got out of it when things were not going in a way. And then all of a sudden I was like, hey, like I think Victoria was the first one that I did live with her, and we were chatting. It was in Ottawa. I'm based in Montreal, so it was an Ottawa networking event. We really got connected. We got connected in Zoom once, and then when we spoke, we connected more in the health, wealth, mindset space. And then I was like, hey, I need to just bring you on an Instagram live, and then just let's have a free flow conversation and then talk about, mindset. That's exactly how it started. And then I said, okay, like let's try to put a pattern of, I started every Wednesday, and then I tried with different timings, right? Because you go by the stats and you see how many people are coming online and whatnot. So I tried different timings, and then now I set up the timing of okay, like 8 o'clock on Wednesday. And then I started looking at other people doing where, you set up a time so it gets anchored in people's mind. So it was Wednesday night, if it's 8 p.m., okay, it's going to be live. So then I created that, and now it becomes as a habit, and now people are actually looking forward to come and see the lives. And then once you get more comments from people, hey, I learned this, I connected with this person, I was looking for this information, I got it from you, can you bring in people with who are health related? So I'm getting a lot of different feedbacks from people, which I'm able to grow for me as well. So that's how it all started with the Instagram live.
How about for the real estate investing? Like, did you have that investing remotely, like outside the province from the very beginning, or this is something that you developed?
Funny that you asked that. So when I started investing, it was basically only in Montreal, within the surrounding areas, the secondary market. And then I was actually listening to Andrew Hines' podcast. I think it was 2.5 years ago, and somebody talked about investing in Moncton, and then investing in Nova Scotia. And I lived in Nova Scotia before. So I went to school there. So I was there for 8 years. So I knew the Nova Scotia market, but I did not have the investor mindset. I was a consumer mindset at that point, right? So when I moved to Montreal, then when I talked about the rebirth, when you start connecting things, when you really align with yourself, things will happen the way that you want it. I was listening to podcasts, and I was like, hey, let me try to invest in Moncton and see how it is. So my first investment out of province was a student rental. So at that time, when people who are listening who wants to invest outside province, you have to know your strategy, what you're looking at, and you have to know your why. So my why was cash flow, and then I was looking at strategy. So now you need to know, when you know your strategy, you need to know what type of properties you're looking for. If it's cash flow, for me, back then when I did the math, all the calculation, student rental was the one that it was serving my why for the cash flow. And then I did that, and it was basically a trial and error method, and it was a mindset shift too, because I was always in the way that hey, how do I invest within 30 kilometers or 15 kilometers where I live? Because what if the tenant calls me, whatever, how I'm gonna look at it? Because that's why you need to know more about your tools that you're going to use and your network that you're going to use, right? Because it's nerve-wracking. Imagine if I'm telling you, okay, let's go invest in the US. I don't even know about the city. I don't even know about the teams that I have. I don't even know about where do I look at, right? So that's why when you get into the analysis paralysis, don't go your thought towards it. Just make sure you go by the process. Just know exactly what your strategy is. And then I joined different groups within Moncton. I joined 2 different Facebook groups. I started attending virtual networking events. Through that, I was able to get investor-focused realtor, and then he was able to guide me with the lenders, the mortgage brokers, and then property managers, same thing. So I started Googling them, and then I started calling different people. I started interviewing them, asking basic questions about, hey, how many properties that you have? Are you managing so far? Are you well-versed student rental? How many student rentals you have? That's how you get to practice and know that. The one thing I realized is when I started investing outside province, I told them that, hey, I wanted to build a portfolio here, and I want you to be in my team. So that was the thing that I used even in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick when I started to talk to them, because end of the day, when you ask those questions, the people who are on the other side, will know that you're not just calling to ask random questions. They know that you're professional and you have to think like a business owner, especially when you're outside province investor. I think people should actually think that even within the province, like that's what I keep telling my friends now, that, hey, when you're investing within the same city, think like you're actually investing outside the city. Because at the end of the day, you got to think like a business owner, right? You can't be like, hey, I'm going to get this and then I'm going to do everything myself. I always tell cheap is expensive, because by the time you go spend it, you'd rather spend on something else. Hire everybody, go not help, delegate it, think like a business owner right from the get-go. If you're planning to portfolio, do your portfolio, scale your portfolio. So that's exactly how it started. And then now into multifamily.
And this is why actually you talk about the fundamentals of mindset, because if you can't even conceive to think this way, there's no way you're going to be able to grow. You're going to be stuck, right? So you obviously were able to get into that mindset early, and well, early is always a relative term, but then invest further away, a little outside your comfort zone, and connect with people and actually make these things happen. So how are those properties in Moncton doing, by the way?
I ended up getting into student rentals. Those are one of the best cash flowing properties that I have so far, because I bought it just before COVID, 2019. Those are the best ones. Even during COVID, I realized that student rentals are COVID proof. Universities were not. This property is very close to Moncton, University of Moncton. It's walkable distance. And even when the university is shut down, people are still studying from home. So I was doing rooming house. It's even better because I was not going through like a single family. People are not spending hard time to pay $1,500 or $2,000 a month because we're charging their rooms.
It's funny you mentioned that it was COVID proof in that sense, because actually I know for universities in Ontario, they actually had a little bit of difficulty with it. And I imagine that the University of Moncton is a little different, because the universities in Ontario, students will move from one city to another, and the commute to go back home, should they decide to abandon their lease, is actually not that far. So if they have to work from home, they might as well technically go an hour away to Barrie or to Toronto, wherever, if they're, let's say, in Kitchener, right?
Yeah.
Do something like that. But in Moncton, I bet the student population there is probably a little bit more restricted, not able to just, if they probably have to go home, they have to go maybe to another province even.
The way I look at it from this perspective is, in Ontario, if you look at the rental market and the student rental market, the rents per room is completely different than in Moncton. The rents per room, you could get it for $500, $600 a room with everything included. The same way in Toronto, there's no way you're going to get that for $500, $600. It's easy $900. If you're already within the city and walkable distance and you're only paying $500, $600, people are not going to lose a lot when they actually go outside. They might as well stay close so they can actually work and make extra money out of it. Another thing, the factor that in my property that includes were international students. New Brunswick were good in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick nominee programs. There are a lot of international students that came in, they went to university, they actually stayed in most of our properties. Where it's, when you compare it to like each person taking a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, this is more economical, where, we went and did more in the strategic way of putting out computer tables, little couch, so that they feel like they don't actually have to move anywhere. So that was a strategic way of, doing stuff during the COVID too. Some of the stuff that we did was we actually less our rent, our $25, so that in their mind, they're actually thinking that, hey, yes, there's a COVID happening, and then there's the landlords are taking care of herself. Turnaround time rate was really low during the COVID for us because of the small little things that we were trying to do.
And when you're doing these outside investments, then are you now doing them with investment groups? Are you basically pooling funds and investing now with other people, or are you doing it independently?
Right now, we're working on 2 deals. One is in Nova Scotia, it's in secondary market. It's a 37 unit. So me and my business partner, so we are the active partners, and then we're bringing in equity part on the deal to close it. So this is a 37 unit. It's $46,000 a door, and there's another that we're closing in June 4th, and there's another deal that I'm working on, which is 56 units. It's a 18 unit apartment building and a 36 unit motel, and we're converting the motel to long-term rentals, and this is in Moncton. So that's with that's with active partners, and then we're bringing in money partners on this deal. So the only way you're going to grow is when you bring in money partners, and that's the only way to grow in multifamily.
You're the fundraiser, basically.
I'm the active partner, yeah.
Okay, got it. And then how much portion are you raising the funds for them? Because I would assume that active partners, they all have their own networking connection that they can raise the capital for.
Correct. So it depends on exactly what role each one is playing in. So in this one, especially on the Nova Scotia deal, it's me and my business partner. We have 60% for us, and then we're giving 40% for the money that we're raising. I think we're raising around 400K, 85% funded, and we're just looking only 15% to get funded on the deal. So 60% on the active partner, and then 40% for the passive partner. And this goes with the strategy as well. So we have like a 2-year plan. The first year would be we're getting private, and then we're doing some renos to bring the net operating income up. And then because most of the properties, if you look in Nova Scotia, they're all everything included, and they have oil. So we're converting oil to propane, increasing the value of the property by decreasing the electrical heating costs. And then after 1 year, we would be going to trade unit, and then we refi that process, and then after 2 years we'll go to CMHC. So after 1 year, the property will cash flow on 8,500, and then after that we'll apply to go to CMHC office.
You said this is on a 37 unit.
Correct. So it's a portfolio. It's a portfolio deal. So it's a 15 unit, a 9 unit, 3 triplex, 2 duplex, and a single family home, and the land. So with that land, we're planning to do a storage unit after a year.
Are you buying this as an existing portfolio, or are you buying it piece by piece and pulling it into a portfolio?
This is actually a portfolio itself. The seller who bought it 3 years ago, they bought it as a portfolio, and they're selling it as a portfolio.
How are you guys handling the financing side, the mortgage? Are you guys doing VTB or is that permanent?
So we do have a VTB of 600,000 of this with 0% interest for 1 year. So we did negotiate with the seller on this. It's a 600K VTB for 1 year. The purchase price is 1.6 million on this portfolio.
1.6 million.
1.6 million.
That's a lot of units for 1.6 million. That's a house in Toronto.
That's it. That's why like people don't look at secondary market, right? Investing in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, there are some deals that you can look at, and this is all off market deals. Right? There are some deals that we looked at that are off market. There are some deals that you look at on market. It's all about searching, like how much you're able to take that risk in a way, because a lot of people get scared about secondary market. But I lived in Nova Scotia, so I know about secondary market, same in New Brunswick. So back then, people were afraid to invest in London. And today, if you have a property in London, you're laughing. So it's all perspective. It's all perspective. That's how I see it, especially when you're going in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And with the immigration law, it's even better. Right? In 5 years, we're expecting more. Toronto and Vancouver would be in a stage, and then Nova Scotia, they're bringing more international students. They're giving more nominee programs where people are coming in. So we're betting more on that perspective. So me and Rajan, our perspective of what Nova Scotia is getting in and putting it out there for the next 5 years. So we know that there's value, and that's what we're going on. That's our strategy, going to secondary market.
By the way, unless you're buying this portfolio, the entire portfolio of 37 units, does that cash flow immediately or it doesn't?
On the first 1 year, it's not cash flowing because we are putting some renovation costs in it, and we are doing some tenant turnovers. So the first year, that's why we have a backup plan of money saved up for that 1 year, and we're not putting anything from the pocket. So we buy the property, we raise money for the renovations. The renovation is done within the year, and then we pay back the VTB. We do a finance because we're going through private, and then the first year would be right after we finance, because we'll be increasing the net operating income. The basic 1 bedroom is 550, so we'll be increasing until 850 to 890, and 2 bedrooms we're increasing $300 to $400 per door. So that will increase our stuff. So that's why we would be able to reach around $8,500 to $9,000. As of today, it's already cash flowing. But since we are putting in the renovation project, each unit has its own way of renovation that we need to do. So we have 2 teams that will go and do, because 1 year, it's a lot to do for 40 units. We're not going to do all the 37 units. Our turnover would be 22 units out of 37 to reach the goal that we wanted to go. So we have monthly phases, because you have to give 3 months notice for certain type of tenants there because of the lease that they're already in. So we have the full plan in place from the day we close it till the next year. So every month there'll be first month will be some of the properties will just do propane conversion, and then other month we'll give notice to other 3, and there'll be regular turnovers too.
And by the way, did you guys putting any money? Active investors, do you guys like putting any money, or everything's raised?
This one, everything raised. We'll probably just put our money for closing costs. That would be around 35K. So it'll just be me and Rajan, I'm a business partner, will be putting in the for the closing.
And what is your projected ROI for the investors in something like this?
The first year, since there'll be no cash flows, so we're giving equity.
You said a 5-year play, right?
And we'll probably give back the money in 2 years. That's the goal. We say 5 years, and after 2 years, it depends on if they want to stay in the project or they can more up, right? This will come to around the return of investment comes to around 18%, and then the cash flow based on how much equity you put in, you get the cash flow based on it. But the goal is to give back the money within 2 years back to the investors.
So 18% is an annual return. Okay, so every year is 18%. Oh, that's pretty attractive.
That's pretty good. I think that's why we all went with the conservative, right? Everything was the conservative model because we are going full on the renovation within the year. So that's exactly why, because we're hiring 2 different property management team, right? There's another partner who will be joining us who's investing in the deal, and he has his own property management company in the city. So which gives us more leverage because he's invested in the deal too. So he will make sure that the project is done, and we are hiring another third-party contractor to finish the project.
Oh, that's good. And is there like a lead project manager in this?
Now it's all software. So the person who would be working with us, Yada Group, and he has everything software based project that he does, and he owns around 150 units in the same city. He has a project lead that takes care of all the project with the software.
Okay, so you have your acquisition budget. I think you said, is the acquisition budget 400 or something odd thousand? 450,
including the renovation project, because we're raising money for the renovations at the same time.
How much has been allocated for renovations?
So 250.
That's a very low acquisition cost in terms of so that's why you have the 1 year VTB though, right?
VTB of 600K, right, with 0% interest. So the plan on this would be since it's a 15 unit, 9 unit, and there are a lot of triplexes and duplexes. The goal is to go get in right after we close. We would refi the smaller properties. So we'll have the cash flow of giving back to the investors and the VTB back to the sellers. So the play in this is completely unique because of the smaller properties. If let's say these were, a 15 unit, another 20 unit, the play would be completely different because we have to go to the same SA model. It takes time to do the renovation. The main we're counting on is we're buying the triplexes and the duplexes way under the market value since it's a portfolio deal.
I have a couple of technical questions because I know people ask these types of questions all the way and everybody does it a little bit differently. So I just want to understand. So you're getting a $600,000 VTB
Correct.
From the seller selling the portfolio, and you're going to be substituting in a private lender who's going to be lending on the mortgage. So basically, if you're buying this, you said for 1.5 million, we're going to have a 600.
So we have 600K on it's 1.6 purchase price. 600K will be the VTB. So we'll be getting from the private lenders 1 million.
And at that, they're essentially doing 75% loan to value, is it? Yeah, actually less than that. You're doing about 60% or so.
60% loan to value. But the reason why we're raising money is because of the renovation.
So you have 60% loan to value. So that means that your acquisition cost, so technically you have $200,000 for the renovations, which you budgeted. And then you have the extra 100 or just under 200 or so for the carrying costs and any other miscellaneous
reserves. Yep.
No, these are very healthy numbers, and to be honest, having been able to negotiate that type of a VTB, it makes the deal very, very feasible.
There's one history on this deal. There's the reason why we were able to get it is because it was a big history on the deal because it was my business partner negotiated to this price. The same deal I was working with it last year, and then it was the purchase price was 2.1. It was 2.1 back then, and then they couldn't sell the whole year. Miscommunication with the sellers and misunderstanding with the sellers, and they didn't want to. They were in the high horn of, hey, I'm not gonna go with ahead to increase the because I was asking for an extension when I had this deal. I had this deal last year under my name where I was trying to deal with the seller, and they were like, I can't give you extension. So at that point I was like, because he wanted me to the seller wanted me to pay for the expenses even before closing because I asked for an extension, right? I said, hey, it doesn't make sense. I think he was in the high horn, okay, I can sell this property for longer. And then for the whole year the property didn't get sold, so I was still keeping in contact with the property manager. And then me and my business partner said, okay, this property is still on market, it's still this was off market, it was not even at the market, right? And then they were trying to sell, they couldn't sell. This was there for a long time. And then my business partner went in at the right time. And then the sellers were going through some financial issues or some medical issues. And they were like, okay, now we're back to selling. And this is the price that we wanted. that's why this has a history of, how we negotiated to this price.
That's amazing, actually, and it really goes to show that you should never just leave something dead in the water, because things can always come around. I mean, even with us on one of our office buildings in Hamilton, we missed out on it at a high price, and literally a month and a half later, we went right back to the seller, and just happened, I think, that they were a little more motivated and were able to score a very favorable deal. So never leave anything dead in the water. But to your deal then, I have actually just a couple of questions. And again, people are going to ask how you structure this and how does this work. If you're buying a portfolio and they're going to kick the money back, $600,000, you can do this, I think, largely because it's with private. Whereas if you're going with an A lender, doing the kickback on the funds becomes a little bit more challenging, because they want to see that you have the money. So you're going to do this through private. So that is why you're doing that. When it comes to how you're structuring it, if you're going with a private, I'm assuming institutional private lender, are they requiring the whole portfolio to be under one corporate title?
It'll be as a blanket mortgage, yeah.
Okay, so
we tried different ways where we said, okay, the 15 and the 9 would be as a multifamily units, so that it's easy to go in the CMHC. And you can do the smaller properties, duplex and triplex, on the single family home would be another mortgage. It will be instead of going to a 2 blanket, you'll be one blanket, you'll be 2 blankets. 115 and the 9 would be one, and then the duplex, triplex would be another one. So that when you do a refi, it's easier to, without breaking the whole blanket, you'll have this 2 separate purchase price, and then you will do this with the smaller properties. So that's what we're structuring right now.
Okay, so that's what you're working on. So that's in play. Okay, because I think sometimes the challenges that people don't realize that happens with blanket mortgages, because people think that a blanket mortgage sounds good, and it does offer many advantages, but your payout percentage on a sale of a property ends up suffering. So you actually have money tied into the portfolio. If you sell it off one by one, you actually don't recover as much as you would on a traditional mortgage.
Correct.
Okay, so can you explain, especially for those listening, how that works in a blanket mortgage? Like, what are you roughly probably agreeing to with those terms, like the terms of a blanket mortgage like that? If you sold a property, what do you have to pay back to the mortgage?
On the setup that we're doing right now, the main reason why we're doing this way is we put this whole thing under one blanket mortgage, 15 and the 9, and all the duplex and triplex. The second you sell one of the properties in this, the loan to value and the property that you take out price on each property would differ, because you're stuck in that hole. It's like you can compare it to a mortgage that you have with a 5-year term, right? If you're taking it out without a 5-year term, you're paying more penalty on it. So when we did the math, we felt that when we have a blanket mortgage on the whole, we were paying more penalty rather than we're having 2 different purchase prices on 15 and the 9, and then putting it bigger on one and the smaller properties on one. Because our strategy is to refi the smaller properties as soon as possible. Right after we close, we're going to do it, because I know we got it in the market price because our appraisal came in that play. The appraisal was, so we bought for 1.6. The appraisal, as is appraisal, is 2.45. As completed is 2.7. So that's why we know there's equity in the game, right? So our structure is basically 2 blanket mortgages, one for the 15 and the 9, and then other for smaller properties. So we are able to refinance the smaller ones and go to the credit unions right after.
Okay, so you go with credit union, and would you go through another blanket mortgage, or would you try to separate them off?
We will try to go with as a blanket, because eventually, after this, after finished 1 year, when we wanted to go to CMHC, the CMHC will only look at 15 and the 9, because they won't look at the smaller properties. The smaller properties will still be as the same as one blanket. The 15 and the 9 will only go to the CMHC.
When doing projects out of province, there are a lot of restrictions that people might encounter, 100%. Such as the fact that even when people want to buy a property in the corporation, I think people need to understand that whoever is the executor of these corporations, or whoever is essentially backing it, is effectively co-signing for the corporations. Because you have a number company, a dummy corp of some kind, you're putting the properties under, somebody needs to be responsible for that, and they're signing for these mortgages. These people will have assets under them, and then different lenders will have different restrictions on assets, or let's just say what they're willing to recognize on the person who's coming in. With the amount of foreclosures that have been happening, we've heard of people who are going under all across Canada, right? There's people who have raised tons of capital, property management companies who raised capital, for example, to make massive acquisitions, and they just bought at the peak, or even house house flippers, actually. A lot of house flippers went out of business because they bought so many properties that they wanted to flip, and then they went out. So it's making a lot of lenders very cautious about who they're lending to and under what circumstances. So you really have to make sure you have some kind of contingency or option to actually play with, which it seems like you have plenty of it. Like you actually negotiated so many great contingencies in this.
It's such a learning curve for us too. It's in any way, I'm not an expert, and even my business partner, we're just learning every day. Even with this deal, every single week when we talk to different lenders, we're getting different, answers, because if the market is changing, the lenders are changing too. The way they lend, the way they look at things is completely changing. It's a learning game for sure. Every single day is a challenge in a way of bringing a solution to the table. It's like if they're not doing it, why they're not doing it. Another reason that we found is the best way for you to go ahead of the game in terms of, talking to different mortgage brokers, instead of you going and asking them, you better have a plan and then go and tell them the plan, right? So that they are ahead of the game already. It's like, if you think about from their perspective, right? It's like I'm coming to you and then I'm saying, hey, I don't know what to do. Please help me. So he's going to tell with this experience of what I'm doing, right? So he has to do all the research. He has to talk to different people and then put a plan, and that takes time. And if I'm coming to you and saying, Andrew, this is my plan, please help me how to structure it. So that's a different conversation you're having. So it's like when you're talking to different mortgage brokers or even realtors, it's the same thing. When you know the stuff, when you know the product, when you know what you wanted to do, each mortgage broker, they were trying to put us in their way of which one will look good. And then meanwhile, we'll try to go with our lawyer to check, hey, if this structure works or not. Because each deal is very unique. And this one is being a portfolio. It's not like one all multifamily. There are multifamily, there's, single family, there are duplex and triplex. So it's such a learning curve for sure.
Bava, what's the rate for the blanket mortgage?
The one that we're getting is 9%.
Our blanket mortgage right now is at 9.52.
Okay, so this one is 9%. Yep.
Yeah, it seems like that's where a lot of people are ending up. Even when it comes to commercial lending, they're going around 9% right now. It's
Correct.
And you're still continuing with Instagram, right?
Yep.
Instagram Live collaboration. To a lot of beginners or a lot of people who are trying to scale up in their portfolio, the number one or two questions that they will always ask is like, number one, how do you find an off-market deal, right? And number two is, how do you actually raise more money? Are you able to share your insights on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for off-market deals, it's basically you need to know which market you're looking at, and then tell each and every person that you know that you are an investor and you're buying properties, and be very specific about what you wanted to buy. You don't just say I'm an investor, because I could have a single family and then call you, but you're buying a multifamily. Be very specific. Yes, it could change. Like this month, let's say in 6 months, I say, okay, I wanted to buy this. Tell every person that you go, every event you go to, network a lot, which is a cliche one that I always say. Everybody knows this, go to a lot of events, talk to a lot of people. When you're talking, be more intentional about what you wanted to buy. So every time they see you, they think, okay, Andrew wanted a 6plex, Ping wanted a 12plex. If something they go across, they will get to you and ask them, hey, do you know any off-market guys that you're working with? That's how you try to find it. And then another way that I look at is Facebook, Kijiji. It's still underrated. There are a lot of people, try to post stuff, right? Look into that. Basically, it's word of mouth. You have to be your own marketing, just telling them what you wanted. And it's another way to see it is you're putting out to the universe and they'll get to you. That's how I see it.
So did this 37-unit deal come from talking to a realtor or property manager?
It's crazy. You wouldn't even believe if I tell you how this worked, how the 37-unit came. 2022, December, I told myself, okay, next year I'm going to buy 100 units. That's my goal. So I started posting on different groups saying that, hey, I'm a multifamily investor. I wanted to buy multifamily. 2 days later, somebody pinged me and said, I have a 37 unit to sell in Nova Scotia. I posted a Nova Scotia group and he said, I have a 37 unit portfolio. Are you interested? Ping me back and let's have a chat. I was just mind blown. I was like, I just went to literally put it on this Facebook page. It's called Investors in Nova Scotia or something. And then I was so curious, like, why did you ping me? And then he said, hey, it's funny that you asked that. I don't usually go to this group. I went to this group. I saw your post. I clicked on your name. I see you're in Montreal. I'm in Montreal. So I wanted to connect with you. And then I said, I have an off-market property. We connected. He was the owner. He was doing exact same what I'm trying to do. He's an investor here, investing in Nova Scotia. And that's how it got started. This is what goes to when your intention of, putting out and mindset and just believing in yourself. right? You have to be so sure about every small steps you do. Just believe the process. When you're doing something, just do it. And then after that, I would start telling people like, hey, I'm multifamily investor. If you have anything in Nova Scotia, let me know.
When people are asking for the insights, and you're like, oh, just one post on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, it makes you sound lucky, but the thing is that when people say that is that, you know, how is it that you continuously get lucky, right? It sounds like you just posted one time, but it's not just that, and it's not just you posted that one place. I'm sure you posted in tons of places.
I posted it
Exactly, right?
groups, right?
Yeah.
It's just the timing. It's like you have to keep trying. It's not just because of, hey, one time it worked. Like
Yeah.
so many times it didn't work.
Yeah, no, 100%. Honestly, one of my buddies, he was telling me how he had posted an ad trying to find an off-market deal, and he had about 100 something responses. He visited 60 properties before he found one that worked out. But another technical question about what it is, because now Ping had one more, I think. But people, when you tell them sometimes that you can negotiate deals like this, find off-market, and maybe even get a VTB, a lot of people wonder, why would somebody ever even consider giving you a VTB? Like when you say you did 1.6 million and they agreed to give you back 600,000, why did they agree to do that? Do you have an explanation for that?
That's a very, very great question. VTB is not an easy play. It all goes to the seller, how motivated they are. Even last year, when I had the deal in the contract, they were only giving me 350K VTB. They were not giving me 600K. Always, always, always know the seller right from the get-go. You're basically solving a problem. That's how I see it. All this off-market deals, all this property that you're trying to buy, it's basically you're solving a problem for the seller. How creative you are to find this deal is basically everything. And you have to understand the mindset of the seller. Because if they're not motivated, VTB won't work. Either that, they don't know about the VTB, right? Because most of the people that you're trying to talk to, either they're people who are trying to retire their portfolio, they are paid off everything and they don't need to know, like they were not ready to even open to have a conversation about it. That's why you have to connect in a very friendly way, an intimacy way, and being yourself, not just being fake about, hey, I need to know about you, blah, blah, blah. There is a process of knowing more about the seller. So you know exactly what their pain points are, and then you go with it. I wouldn't recommend people to go on the first time and say, hey, give me a VTB. I always think like VTB is something that's the last resort. People don't want to hear that VTB right from the get-go. They wanted to know you're trying. They wanted to know your experience. They wanted to know whether you can close it. They wanted to know what you have done before. Or be straight up and say like, hey, I've never done this. This is my first time, but I want you to help me. But that person should be in the mindset to listen to you and then to agree with it. Everything is case by case. There's not one thing I would say, hey, like just go talk to this seller like this, because everybody is different. Few deals I worked last year didn't work.
Now, in this case, the seller taking the VTB position is going to be in second position, and 600,000 is a lot of money to feel comfortable with in second position. Do you have any insights on how you made somebody be comfortable enough with that?
My business partner played a very main role on this, right? Because he knew about the insights of the property from me last year that I was working on. And his story, when he went to the seller, it was picture perfect, because he has properties right in the same street of the property that we're going to buy. A lot of people last year, they didn't buy because they were secondary market. They were afraid about the secondary market. They didn't want to invest. So the seller mindset, they were like, hey, nobody's buying the property. We went in, and then Kim being on the same street, he had a few properties on the same street. And now they know the value of the property that they're selling. And then they know, for the matter of fact, that there's a proof is the pudding. He knows about the market. He knows about the street. He knows about the property that he's going to get. That's why each case is completely different, right? And this one is basically how the story that, you know, the seller sees from your side.
Yeah.
That's what is very unique in this one. It's not that, oh, we went and asked and they gave you 600. No, there's a process of how they saw it and what's the story that we shared, and how confident we are and with our experience and whatnot.
Usually how I view VTB is usually on the two circumstances, we could negotiate the VTB very easily. Number one is the people running out of time, right? They lease a property and then they are unable to find a buyer, and they really need
Somebody to, yeah.
Yeah, so they need to like make it easy for the buyer to actually acquire that property. So running out of time. The second one is they have a specific price point that they really need to hit.
They anchor on the price.
Yeah, so you improve the price for them, but in exchange, they need to make the acquisition process a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, but with this one, I'm sure experience also helps. But definitely because they're also motivated sellers. They just
100%. 100%. They're motivated seller, and then like the story just aligns with what they're trying to do. And then my business partner has same properties on the street, and that's kind of like lifting up to, because whole this year I was talking to the property manager of the current property manager, asking that, hey, what's going on with the status? Every month I used to call them because I already invested time and money on it. I already spent last year inspection, lawyer fees, etc., right? So I was always keeping in touch every month just to see how did they sell it, what's going on, blah blah blah. That's why you can't give up on the properties that you feel that. That's another mind shift that I had last year, because it was like, hey, everything that you do won't work. You have to make sure that keep following up, and then that's exactly another one. It's everything that you do, because you on social media you only see the stuff that works. 3 deals last year didn't work for me, and that was the biggest shift that I learned, because 2 years before that, everything I worked, I was making money. I was all my strategy was not was working. Last year it was such a learning year for me. Everything I was working on didn't close. In my head, it was all about how I'm going to deal with it when things are not right in your way. I had to go through that to figure out more about myself, to know that, hey, things won't happen the way you want it. So how are you going to act about it? So that's how like I learned my lesson last year.
Last year was a very humbling year for a lot of people.
100%. I'm very glad that I went through that. So
that's why people say that what doesn't kill you makes you a lot stronger, right? It's not just a little stronger, it's a lot stronger. So
100%.
Now, I wanted to go to my second question, actually. So for a lot of listeners, they will also want to know, jumping from, because I'm pretty sure that your previous one is a 37 or 20 units. Your previous one was like a 3 or 4 unit residential, right?
That's it. It was triplex.
Triplex. Okay. So a lot of people, when they make that jump, they always feel like, okay, where am I going to raise the capital from? What is the recommendation for them?
My expertise were basically single family, student rentals. And how we pivoted to multifamily is you need education. You need education on how to do stuff, because it's not about emotional, it's only logical and reasoning. Because if you go into multifamily or a single family, it's only logical, emotional buy, because market goes up and whatnot. In my case, I invested in myself in terms of education. So I joined, Wealth Genius. They specifically teach you on all multifamily. And there's a process to buy multifamily, right? Because you need to have the education to go buy a product. That's how I started learning about multifamily. And in terms of raising money, you have to share with people with your experience. So basically, as you can always say, that you can call it marketing, you can call it being genuine about what you wanted to share. So people have to know you, what you are doing, and you have to be consistent about what you're actually accomplishing. It doesn't matter if you're buying, 10 units or 20 units or 30 units. People have to know who you are first. I can't expect somebody to come and invest with me without knowing them. I always think like a passive investor, right? If I'm investing on somebody, like end of the day, people should realize that people are going to invest only for the people, not for the deal. Because there are 100 deals out there, right? I could bring the same deal as somebody else, and somebody wants to invest with me, it's because of they invested the time in me. So that's the only difference I see it. Me, I always network a lot in terms of having discovery calls, sharing with what I know, and always providing values. If I don't know, I'm going to tell no, and I'm going to find an answer and no. That's another way for me to learn it. And be intentional about, what you wanted to accomplish, right? Not just have like, random goals and do stuff. And when you're being genuine and people really wanted to work with you, they see your energy, and they see what you accomplished so far within the outside province, and that gives confidence for people to even put money on the table. Even last year, I was able to raise 350K. That was my first thing, going from triplex to 37 unit, and people were able to invest. That the only shift was you're making other people rich. You're not asking for money. That's the shift that I made, where you're making other people rich. This is my deal. I know I'm confident about the product, and you have to be very confident about what you're doing. The whole time, everybody's asking me, how are we going to raise it? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to raise it. And I know I'm going to get one investor, and it's going to invest 350K. And this exactly happened. I couldn't close it last year, but this is exactly what happened. But obviously, I talked to
one person with a full amount.
One person with the full amount, right? And I, honestly, people ask me how you do it. I just don't know how. I said one person will invest, and I'm gonna raise it. But the whole time I believed in my process. I was flying out there, I was doing walkthroughs, I was doing inspection, and I was just believing in my process, saying that, hey, how I'm gonna find money, where I'm gonna find money. And the whole time I was on social media posting stuff.
Did you meet this investor on social media?
No, it's through a different group, but he saw my post and then we pinged and then we talked, right?
Yeah.
So,
See, that's interesting because it is cyclical. Sometimes people think that it's kind of like realtors when they first start posting some of their content onto social media. They already had the network. The network just didn't know they had you. And it's interesting how that works out. So I think it's really good that you do it. Your deal sounds great. Your outlook and philosophy on the mindset aspect of it is definitely very real. And a lot of people can, I'm sure, will be able to resonate and relate to this. The struggles that we all go through are definitely always relatable, more so actually than the successes. So it's definitely good to be able to touch on it.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your social media handles or how somebody can connect with you?
Instagram, it's Rice.investments, and I'm always active there. And then, if you go to my bio, there's a calendar link. You can book a call anytime. Send me a DM. We can set up a call. More than happy to share my energy.